Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I want to thank Pete Rubish for the little shout out he gave me earlier today. My client Carter made me aware of it and said, hey, you should check this out. Normally I don't watch videos made about me, I ignore them, but I like Pete personally and I knew it would be a positive video, so I went over, checked it out, and I actually agreed with a lot of other stuff that Pete had to say there. One of the things I have always respected about Pete, Pete doesn't really care about people's opinions. Pete is one of those guys who he just gives it to you straight. He shoots straight from the hip. He says what he thinks with no bullshit. He just tells you, this is what I think. This is what I think the truth is. I don't care what you think about it. I'm just going to be honest. Not only do I respect him being that way, I think most people who've ever chimed in to anything Pete has to say are going to respect that also. So, we talked for a moment about the whole arching thing. That's what he talked about, the changes with the IPF. And like I said, I think it's been overblown personally. I do understand and respect the idea behind saying, look, ranges of motions are getting ridiculously short. Let's turn this into really being about strength again instead of leverages. I just don't think that that's the best way to do it. There's some potential issues. Like I said, and Pete agreed also, you'll get rid of most of it if you just make people unrack the weight themselves, right? And then we come over to the point with that. If you can't unrack the weight yourself, you have no business lifting it, okay? Like, how contorted of a setup are you in that you can't unrack the weight that you're about to lift? And it's not even an injury thing, guys. Come on. Be realistic. But he touched upon a bigger point, and that is talking about longer ranges of motion, traditional ranges of motion. He said, hey, maybe all feds should think about going to stiff bars. There's me right there doing 600 for an easy single on a stiff bar. That's on my Texas power bar, not my deadlift bar, off a 1 inch deficit. So I'm big on that. Same thing, you guys watch me close grip 365 with a pause at the start. I'm in my late 40s. I'm an old dude. Okay, I'm an old dude. About to turn 46 this year. I tend to agree with Pete. I really do. I'm going to agree with him here. I would love to see that. People will say, why do you have those knee sleeves on if you believe in that? Because they're allowed by the rules. And if you're chasing gold medals, you're trying to win. Like, I'm going to Worlds coming up next month, right? I'm competing at Worlds. I'm taking it seriously. If I get anything out of those knee sleeves, they're worth it. They're allowed by the rules. But you know what? If we took out sleeves, we took out deadlift bars, we even narrowed the grip slightly. If we made it to where on bench press, you had to stay completely inside the rings. Get only conventional deadlift, stiff bar. Hell, if we got rid of belts, you know what? I would be okay with that. It wouldn't bother me one bit. And if anything, would it be a better overall test of strength of just straight up what can you lift? It would. Because really, what is powerlifting? Powerlifting is supposed to be a test of brute strength. It is a low-skill test of brute strength. These are not technical lifts. Okay? It is a sport that measures a single attribute, and that is strength. So if we went over to all of these things that require us to do a little more range of motion, that maybe have a little less supportive equipment, would it make the sport purer? I think there's a case for that. And you know what? I would be more than happy to compete. If the biggest, best feds in the world, like let's listen to the USPA right now, went over to all of that and said no wrist wraps, no belts, no knee sleeves, deadlift bar, hands inside the rings, no sumo, I would be more than happy to compete in that environment. I'd be more than happy to compete in that environment, hands down. Why? Because that would be a pure test of strength. I'd love to see it. I think that would be fantastic. So when Pete said that, I kind of nodded. I don't know, maybe about the wrist wraps. I have small wrist. But, you know, if the rules took wrist reps out, it would be a level playing field. It would still be a level playing field. So, yeah, I want to thank Pete for that shout out and not caring what trolls or haters or anyone thinks and just speaking his mind. And I want to thank Pete for taking that stance about the purity of strength, because I think it's a very valid stance philosophically. I think that it is. So I appreciate Pete speaking his mind on it. Thank you, brother.